Big dreams often begin in the smallest of ways, planted like seeds in the quiet corners of our hearts. They rarely appear as fully formed visions or grand realities. Instead, they emerge as fleeting thoughts, subtle desires, or faint sparks of imagination. Over time, with persistence, patience, and resilience, those little sparks can grow into something powerful enough to transform lives and even the world. The idea that big dreams start small is both humbling and empowering, because it reminds us that no matter where we are, how limited our resources may be, or how daunting our goals might look, progress begins with a single step and expands with consistent effort. When we look around at the towering achievements of individuals who have changed history, it is easy to forget that they too once stood at the starting line with nothing but ideas and hope. A writer's masterpiece begins with a single sentence. A scientist's breakthrough begins with a question scribbled in a notebook. And an entrepreneur's empire often starts in a garage or a small room. What makes these small beginnings extraordinary is not their scale, but the unwavering commitment and determination to nurture them. Just as a seed holds within it the potential to become a tree that provides shade for generations, small actions can hold within them the promise of greatness. Many people hold themselves back because they believe they need perfect circumstances to pursue their goals. They wait for the right time, the right connections, or enough resources before starting, but the truth is that beginnings are rarely perfect, and perfection is not required to dream big. What matters is courage, consistency, and vision. A person who dreams of building a school does not need to begin with a large campus. They can begin by teaching a single child under a tree. A person who wishes to create music that touches millions might start by writing lyrics in a notebook and sharing them with a handful of friends. A future athlete who hopes to win medals might begin by running barefoot on dusty village roads. The size of the start does not matter. What matters is the willingness to start at all. This principle is evident in countless stories around us. Consider the journey of entrepreneurs who started with almost nothing but an idea. The founders of global companies such as Apple, Amazon, and Google began in small garages or dorm rooms, often with little money and plenty of uncertainty. They faced rejection, doubt, and countless setbacks, but their belief in the potential of their small ideas drove them forward. They were not born with empires. They built them step by step, risk by risk, and sacrifice by sacrifice. These stories remind us that success is less about where you begin and more about how much faith and effort you put into the journey. The idea that big dreams start small also teaches us patience. In a world that glorifies instant results, it is easy to forget that meaningful accomplishments require time. A seed cannot grow into a tree overnight. It must be nurtured with water, sunlight, and care. Similarly, dreams demand steady work and the ability to persist through challenges. People often abandon their aspirations when they do not see immediate results, but those who understand the value of small beginnings know that every effort is a building block. Every late night study session brings a student closer to their goal of becoming a doctor. Every hour of practice polishes the skills of an artist, and every small investment contributes to building financial stability. Progress may be slow and invisible at first, but over time it accumulates into something undeniable. Another vital aspect of starting small is learning and growth. When we take small steps toward our dreams, we give ourselves room to make mistakes, adapt, and improve. If success were immediate and massive, we might lack the resilience and skills needed to sustain it. Small beginnings allow us to learn lessons that become the foundation of long-term achievement. For instance, a person who wants to become a leader does not begin by leading thousands. They start by guiding a few, learning through trial and error, and gradually developing the wisdom and empathy required for larger responsibilities. These early experiences are crucial because they shape character and build the strength necessary to carry the weight of bigger achievements. It is also important to recognize that small beginnings cultivate gratitude and humility. When we achieve something after starting with very little, we understand the value of hard work, persistence, and faith. We remember the times when nobody believed in us, when resources were scarce, and when progress seemed slow. This memory keeps us grounded even when success arrives. It prevents arrogance and keeps us connected to the essence of our journey. Many great leaders and visionaries retain their humility despite their success, because they never forget the modest beginnings from which they came. Dreaming big while starting small is not just a philosophy for individuals. It is also true for communities and societies. Social change often begins with the courage of a single voice. A movement for justice, equality, or freedom rarely begins with massive crowds. It begins with one person refusing to stay silent, one group daring to take action, and one spark igniting others to join. History is filled with examples where revolutions, reforms, and cultural transformations began with small acts of defiance, compassion, or creativity. These moments remind us that even the smallest step can carry immense power when fueled by conviction and courage. One of the challenges of starting small is the fear of being insignificant. Many people dismiss their efforts because they seem too minor compared to the scale of their dreams. But small steps are never wasted. They build momentum, create opportunities, and attract others who share the vision. A single drop of water may seem powerless, but when combined with countless others, it forms rivers that shape landscapes. In the same way, small efforts combine to create waves of change. Every dreamer who dares to start small contributes not only to their own journey, but also to inspiring others around them. In addition, starting small helps us focus on the process rather than being overwhelmed by the outcome. Big dreams can feel intimidating, and the thought of achieving them may seem impossible. Breaking them down into smaller, manageable steps makes the journey less overwhelming. Instead of focusing on writing an entire book, one can focus on writing a single page each day. Instead of worrying about running a marathon, one can focus on running a single mile consistently. Each small action builds confidence, and eventually, the dream that once felt out of reach becomes achievable. Moreover, small beginnings teach us to value consistency over intensity. A sudden burst of effort may achieve temporary results, but consistent small actions are what sustain long-term success. Just as a tree grows gradually by adding rings each year, dreams expand through daily effort and discipline. The discipline of practicing every day, learning continuously, and taking steady action outweighs the occasional rush of inspiration. This slow but steady progress is what ensures that dreams not only come true, but also last. Ultimately, the beauty of starting small lies in the universality of its message. No one is too poor, too inexperienced, or too insignificant to begin. Everyone has the capacity to take the first step toward their dream, no matter how small. What separates those who achieve greatness from those who do not is not the scale of their beginnings, but their persistence in nurturing their dreams until they grow. Every great achievement in the world is proof that small beginnings can blossom into extraordinary realities. To dream big is to believe in possibilities that seem beyond our reach, and to start small is to honor those dreams with action. Together, they form the perfect balance of vision and humility. Dreams give us direction, while small steps give us progress. One without the other is incomplete. A dream without action remains a fantasy, while action without vision lacks meaning. But when both come together, they create the potential to change lives, shape societies, and leave behind legacies that inspire generations. In the end, the truth is simple yet profound. Big dreams start small. They begin in the hearts of ordinary people who dare to believe in something greater, who take the courage to start with what they have, and who persist long enough to see their vision bloom. Every seed planted in hope carries within it the possibility of becoming a tree. Every step taken toward a dream, no matter how small, is a victory in itself. And every person who chooses to begin, even humbly, holds the power to turn the impossible into the inevitable. Sacrifice is the price of greatness, and throughout history, this truth has revealed itself in countless ways. No extraordinary achievement, no lasting legacy, and no remarkable triumph has ever been realized without someone giving up comfort, pleasure, or security in pursuit of a higher goal. Greatness, by its very nature, demands a cost. It is not handed freely nor obtained by chance. It requires deliberate choices, often painful ones, that separate the ordinary from the exceptional. To reach the heights of success, individuals must be willing to endure the valleys of struggle, and it is sacrifice that forms the bridge between ambition and accomplishment. When we speak of greatness, we often think of athletes, leaders, artists, inventors, or reformers whose names are etched into history. Yet behind their achievements lies a hidden story of what they gave up to get there. Athletes wake up before dawn to train while the rest of the world sleeps, sacrificing leisure and social time to sharpen their skills. Writers endure long, lonely hours, giving up distractions to pour their thoughts onto paper. Leaders bear the weight of responsibility, often sacrificing personal peace and comfort for the sake of those they serve. The visible glory of their greatness is built on invisible sacrifices. What seems effortless from the outside is often the result of years of discipline, missed opportunities, and relentless focus. Sacrifice is powerful because it shapes character. To let go of something valuable for the sake of something greater demands resilience, vision, and strength. Sacrifice tests a person's resolve, forcing them to decide whether they truly value their goal enough to pay the price. Many dream of success, but only those willing to endure sacrifices achieve it. For instance, a student who aspires to become a doctor must sacrifice years of free time, sleep, and entertainment to dedicate themselves to study. Those sacrifices not only build knowledge, but also instill patience, perseverance, and humility, qualities essential for the responsibility of saving lives. Greatness is not just about the destination. It is about the transformation that occurs through sacrifice along the way. History is filled with examples that illustrate this truth. Consider the sacrifices of social reformers and freedom fighters who gave up their comfort, safety, and sometimes even their lives to secure justice and liberty for others. Figures like Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, and Martin Luther King Jr. are remembered not only for their victories but also for the immense personal sacrifices they endured. Gandhi sacrificed wealth, personal comfort, and even his health for the cause of India's independence. Mandela sacrificed 27 years of his life in prison for the freedom of his people. Martin Luther King Jr. sacrificed his peace and ultimately his life in the pursuit of racial equality. Their greatness was not simply in their achievements, but in their willingness to give everything for a vision greater than themselves. Without sacrifice, their dreams would have remained unrealized, and the world would be poorer for it. In the realm of science and innovation, sacrifice is equally evident. Thomas Edison, for example, famously failed thousands of times while attempting to invent the light bulb. His sacrifices of time, comfort, and energy eventually illuminated the world. Marie Curie sacrificed her health, spending countless hours in dangerous conditions with radioactive materials, paving the way for groundbreaking discoveries. Sacrifice is what separates those who dream of innovation from those who change the world with it. Every breakthrough demands that the individual give up ease, certainty, and often the approval of others. Sacrifice also carries a deeply personal dimension. It is not always grand or visible to the world. Sometimes greatness lies in the quiet sacrifices made daily. Parents who sacrifice their own dreams or comforts to provide opportunities for their children demonstrate greatness of character and love. Individuals who sacrifice short-term pleasures for long-term stability and discipline achieve greatness in their personal lives, even if their names never appear in history books. A young person who resists temptations, sacrifices fleeting desires, and focuses on education or self-development embodies the truth that sacrifice is the price of building a meaningful future. One of the greatest challenges of sacrifice is that it often requires giving up certainty for uncertainty. It is easy to cling to comfort zones, but greatness requires stepping into the unknown. Entrepreneurs, for example, sacrifice financial security and steady jobs to pursue their visions, not knowing whether they will succeed or fail. Many endure sleepless nights, financial struggles, and skepticism from others. Yet without those sacrifices, there would be no innovation, no industries, and no progress. The willingness to sacrifice comfort for possibility is often what distinguishes leaders from followers. Sacrifice also teaches the importance of prioritization. Every person has limited time, energy, and resources, which means that choosing one path often requires letting go of another. A person cannot pursue every desire at once and still achieve greatness in any. To become exceptional in one area, one must sacrifice pursuits in others. This is why champions in sports or masters in art dedicate themselves almost entirely to their craft. They choose to sacrifice distractions, fleeting pleasures, and even relationships in some cases to focus intensely on their calling. This kind of prioritization is difficult, but it is essential because greatness cannot be achieved through half-hearted effort. Sacrifice and discipline are intertwined. Discipline is the daily choice to give up ease for effort, to resist temptation for growth, and to embrace discomfort for progress. It is through consistent discipline that sacrifices accumulate into meaningful results. A musician who practices daily sacrifices hours that could be spent elsewhere, but those hours shape mastery. A student who consistently studies instead of wasting time on distractions sacrifices immediate pleasure for future success. Discipline transforms sacrifice into progress, and progress leads to greatness. However, sacrifice is not without pain. Letting go of something valuable always carries a sense of loss, and the road to greatness is often lonely. Many who pursue extraordinary dreams face misunderstanding, criticism, and doubt from others. Friends may not understand why one chooses study over social gatherings, or why one chooses to work long hours instead of living for the moment. Yet those who endure the pain of these sacrifices find that the rewards are greater than the losses. The temporary discomfort of sacrifice is outweighed by the lasting fulfillment of achievement. It is also worth remembering that sacrifice does not always guarantee worldly success, but it guarantees growth. Even when goals are not fully realized, the very act of sacrifice builds strength, resilience, and depth of character. A person who has endured sacrifice becomes wiser, more patient, and more capable of handling life's challenges. In this way, greatness is not only measured by external achievements, but also by internal transformation. Sometimes the greatest sacrifice leads not to fame or wealth, but to a quiet greatness found in integrity, courage, and the impact made on the lives of others. In relationships and community life, sacrifice is equally essential. Strong families, lasting friendships, and thriving communities are built on individuals willing to sacrifice selfish desires for the good of others. Love itself is a form of sacrifice, requiring us to put someone else's needs above our own. Greatness in relationships comes not from what we demand, but from what we give. A world where no one is willing to sacrifice for others is a world devoid of compassion and unity. At its core, the truth that sacrifice is the price of greatness is a call to responsibility. It reminds us that nothing truly valuable can be attained without cost. Greatness is not free, nor is it accidental. It asks us, what are we willing to give up to reach the heights we dream of? The answer to that question often determines who succeeds and who does not. Those unwilling to sacrifice remain confined to comfort, but those who embrace sacrifice rise beyond limitations. Ultimately, sacrifice is not a loss, but an investment. It is the act of exchanging something of immediate value for something of far greater worth. The student sacrifices sleep today for knowledge that lasts a lifetime. The athlete sacrifices leisure for strength and victory. The leader sacrifices comfort for the betterment of society. The parent sacrifices personal desires for the growth of their children. Each sacrifice, though painful in the moment, becomes the foundation of something extraordinary. Greatness is not reserved for a chosen few. It is available to all who are willing to pay its price. The path may be difficult, but the reward is profound. Sacrifice transforms ordinary lives into extraordinary ones, ordinary efforts into lasting impact, and ordinary people into legends. It strips away what is unnecessary and leaves behind only what is strong, resilient, and true. Without sacrifice, greatness is impossible. With sacrifice, even the impossible can be achieved. Hard work beats talent is a phrase that has echoed across generations, reminding us that persistence, dedication, and relentless effort often outweigh natural gifts or advantages. Talent is valuable, but it is not enough on its own to guarantee success. Hard work, with its discipline, perseverance, and focus, is the driving force that allows individuals to unlock their full potential. Talent may open doors, but it is hard work that pushes us through them and keeps us moving forward. Life has repeatedly shown that those who consistently commit themselves to effort, no matter their natural abilities, can achieve greatness that even the most gifted often fail to reach. Talent is often admired and praised because it makes certain tasks seem effortless. A naturally talented singer may hit perfect notes without training, or a gifted student may grasp concepts faster than others. However, talent without hard work is like a seed left unwatered. It holds promise, but without nurturing, it never grows into its full potential. Hard work is what takes raw ability and molds it into mastery. The student who studies day and night will surpass the naturally intelligent one who neglects their studies. The athlete who trains relentlessly, even without great physical gifts, will outperform the talented athlete who refuses to put in the effort. In this way, hard work levels the playing field and often tips the balance in favor of those who are willing to sweat for success. One of the reasons hard work beats talent is consistency. Talent might give someone a head start, but consistency in effort creates long-term growth and resilience. For example, a talented runner may win races in school without much practice, but if they fail to train and improve, they will eventually be surpassed by someone less naturally gifted but more disciplined in training. Hard work accumulates over time, creating results that talent alone cannot sustain. A person who puts in effort every day, however small, builds habits and skills that compound into extraordinary achievements. Talent without consistency, on the other hand, fades into wasted potential. History provides countless examples of hard work triumphing over talent. Thomas Edison, often called the Wizard of Menlo Park, is famous not because he was born a genius, but because he worked tirelessly, experimenting thousands of times before perfecting the light bulb. He once said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. His success was not the result of effortless talent, but of relentless persistence. In the world of sports, Michael Jordan, widely regarded as one of the greatest basketball players of all time, was not initially considered the most talented. In fact, he was cut from his high school basketball team. But through years of relentless practice, hard work, and dedication, he transformed himself into a legend. His story demonstrates that hard work has the power to overcome rejection and doubt, turning failure into fuel for greatness. Another example comes from Albert Einstein, who was not considered particularly talented as a child. Teachers even doubted his abilities early on, yet through determination, curiosity, and persistent effort, he revolutionized physics with his groundbreaking theories. His success was not rooted in extraordinary natural brilliance alone, but in the tireless hours he spent questioning, researching, and refining his ideas. These stories reveal that talent may provide a spark, but hard work keeps the fire burning and growing. Hard work also builds character in ways that talent cannot. Effort demands discipline, patience, and the ability to endure setbacks. It teaches us humility, as we realize that nothing worthwhile comes easily. Talent can create arrogance if not supported by hard work, but hard work instills resilience and strength of character. When someone who is naturally gifted faces failure for the first time, they may not know how to handle it. On the other hand, the hard-working individual who has faced setbacks repeatedly develops the courage to rise again. This resilience becomes one of the most important qualities for achieving lasting success. Talent may shine brightly in the short term, but it is often hard work that ensures long-term excellence. In the creative fields, many talented artists and musicians fail to achieve lasting recognition because they do not put in the consistent effort to refine their craft. Meanwhile, individuals with moderate talent but relentless dedication go on to create masterpieces. Hard work teaches us to push beyond comfort zones, to keep practicing when inspiration fades, and to show up every day even when progress feels slow. This dedication often results in achievements that surpass those who rely solely on talent. Another critical point is that hard work expands talent. Natural ability has limits, but effort can push those limits further than we ever imagine. A moderately talented person who works hard can become highly skilled, while a naturally talented person who refuses to work remains stagnant. Talent alone cannot grow without cultivation, but hard work continually builds and expands potential. This means that while talent may be a gift, it is hard work that multiplies the gift and turns it into something extraordinary. In academics, this truth is clear. A student who may not grasp concepts quickly but studies diligently, asks questions, and puts in consistent hours of learning often surpasses the naturally gifted student who neglects to prepare. Teachers often emphasize effort because they know it is the foundation of true learning. Similarly, in workplaces, employers often value dedication and a strong work ethic over raw talent. A talented worker who lacks discipline may not meet deadlines or collaborate effectively, while a hardworking employee becomes reliable, efficient, and invaluable to the team. Hard work also creates opportunities that talent alone cannot secure. A talented person may be noticed initially, but only those who continue to put in the effort build trust and credibility. For example, an actor may have natural charisma, but without the hard work of rehearsing, learning, and improving, their career will not sustain itself. Hard work ensures that when opportunities arise, we are prepared to seize them. It is preparation meeting opportunity that often leads to success, and preparation is the fruit of consistent effort. A key factor in why hard work beats talent lies in the unpredictability of life. Circumstances, challenges, and competition often change, and raw talent may not always be enough to adapt. Hard work, however, develops adaptability and perseverance. Those who have worked hard learn how to face challenges head on, to problem solve, and to keep moving forward even in adversity. This adaptability allows them to stay ahead when talented individuals falter in the face of difficulty. It is also important to understand that hard work inspires others. Talent may impress people, but hard work motivates and influences them. People respect those who are willing to put in effort, overcome odds, and persist despite challenges. A hardworking person sets an example, showing others that success is attainable through discipline and effort. In contrast, talent without hard work often fails to inspire because it does not demonstrate the values of perseverance or resilience. The saying that hard work beats talent does not mean that talent is unimportant. Talent is a gift and can provide an advantage, but it becomes meaningful only when combined with effort. Talent gives potential, while hard work unlocks it. When talent and hard work meet, the results can be extraordinary, but when forced to choose between the two, hard work will always prevail. This truth gives hope to everyone, because it means that success is not limited to the naturally gifted. Anyone, regardless of starting point, can achieve greatness if they are willing to put in the work. Ultimately, hard work beats talent because effort is within everyone's control, while talent is not. We cannot choose the natural abilities we are born with, but we can choose the effort we put into developing ourselves. This makes hard work the great equalizer. It empowers people from all walks of life to dream big and to achieve goals that might seem beyond reach. Talent may be an accident of birth, but hard work is a conscious choice, and it is this choice that defines destiny. In the end, success is not about who has the most talent, but about who refuses to give up, who keeps pushing forward, and who commits to growth despite challenges. Talent can fade, but hard work endures. Talent can impress, but hard work inspires. Talent may give a moment of glory, but hard work builds a lifetime of achievement. When faced with the choice between relying on talent or embracing effort, the answer is clear. Hard work beats talent every time. Failure is a step, not the end, and this truth is one of the most powerful lessons life has to offer. Too often, people treat failure as a final destination, a crushing blow that signals the end of possibility. But failure is never the end unless we choose to stop moving forward. It is a teacher, a guide, and an essential part of growth. Every great success story carries within it a history of setbacks, disappointments, and failed attempts. What separates those who succeed from those who quit is the ability to see failure not as a wall, but as a stepping stone toward eventual achievement. Failure hurts because it challenges our pride, our expectations, and sometimes our identity. It is natural to feel discouraged when our efforts do not lead to immediate success. A student who studies hard but fails an exam may feel crushed. A business owner whose first venture collapses may feel defeated, and an athlete who loses an important match may question their worth. But these feelings, while painful, are temporary. Failure is only permanent if it makes us give up completely. If we view failure as a step, we recognize that it carries lessons that can guide us closer to success. In fact, some of the most valuable lessons in life cannot be learned without failing first. History is filled with examples that prove failure is never the end. Thomas Edison, when asked about his countless failed experiments before inventing the light bulb, famously said that he had not failed but found thousands of ways that did not work. His perspective turned failure into progress. Each mistake brought him closer to the solution. Similarly, J.K. Rowling, before becoming the world-famous author of the Harry Potter series, faced multiple rejections from publishers. Had she treated those rejections as the end, the world would never have experienced her stories. Instead, she saw failure as part of the journey and continued until success arrived. These stories remind us that failure is not a dead end, but a detour that leads us to better paths. One reason failure is a step is that it exposes weaknesses we might not have noticed otherwise. When everything goes smoothly, we may overlook flaws in our plans, skills, or understanding. Failure forces us to confront those weaknesses and improve. A failed business might reveal gaps in strategy, poor management, or lack of preparation. A failed exam might highlight areas that require more focus. Each failure holds a mirror to our efforts, showing us where to grow. Without failure, we might remain blind to these shortcomings and stagnate. Failure sharpens us, toughens us, and pushes us to rise stronger. Failure also builds resilience. Every time we fail and rise again, we develop inner strength that cannot be taught in any classroom. Resilience is one of the most important qualities for long-term success because life is never free of obstacles. Those who have faced failure and learned to keep going develop courage and determination that carry them through future challenges. Consider athletes who lose crucial matches but continue training harder. Their failures prepare them mentally and emotionally for the day they finally win. Resilience, born from failure, often becomes the foundation for extraordinary achievements. It is important to understand that failure is not a sign of incompetence, but of effort. People who never fail are often those who never try. Playing safe, avoiding risks, and sticking only to what is easy may protect us from failure, but it also prevents us from achieving greatness. Failure proves that we had the courage to attempt something difficult. The greatest innovators, leaders, and dreamers in history are remembered not because they never failed, but because they dared to fail repeatedly until they succeeded. Failure is evidence of effort, and effort is the path to growth. Another way to view failure as a step is to recognize that it redirects us. Sometimes what seems like failure is simply life steering us toward a different path, one that may be better than the one we planned. A person who fails at one career might discover their true passion in another. An inventor whose design fails might stumble upon a completely new idea that changes the world. Failure can close one door but open another. It teaches flexibility and adaptability, helping us realize that success is not always about stubbornly sticking to one plan, but about being open to new opportunities. Failure also teaches humility. Success can sometimes inflate ego, making us believe we are invincible or beyond mistakes. Failure reminds us that we are human, that growth requires continuous effort, and that we must remain grounded. Humility born from failure makes us more empathetic, more patient, and more willing to learn from others. This humility often strengthens relationships, leadership, and personal character in ways that pure success never could. One of the most harmful myths is that successful people never fail. In reality, every person who has achieved greatness has a history of setbacks. Walt Disney faced financial ruin and rejection before building his empire. Abraham Lincoln lost multiple elections before becoming one of the greatest presidents in history. Steve Jobs was even fired from Apple, the very company he co-founded, before returning years later to lead it to new heights. Their stories show us that failure does not erase potential, it refines it. What defines them is not the absence of failure, but the refusal to let failure be the end. Failure is also a step because it fuels creativity and innovation. When one approach fails, it pushes us to think differently, to try new methods, and to challenge conventional thinking. Many scientific discoveries and inventions were born out of failures that forced researchers to experiment further. Failure forces us out of comfort zones and stimulates growth by making us rethink assumptions. In this sense, failure is not a roadblock but a catalyst for discovery. However, learning from failure requires the right mindset. If we treat failure as a defeat, we may give up too soon. If we treat it as feedback, we gain valuable insight for improvement. The mindset of growth turns every failure into a step forward. This perspective requires patience and faith in the process. Just as a child learns to walk by falling repeatedly, we learn to succeed by stumbling through failures. The falls do not mean the child is incapable of walking. They are necessary steps in the process of mastering balance. Similarly, our failures are necessary steps toward mastering life's challenges. Failure also teaches gratitude. When we finally succeed after many failures, we appreciate the achievement far more deeply than if it had come easily. The taste of victory is sweeter when we know the bitterness of defeat. Failure humbles us and makes success meaningful. It also teaches us to value the support of others who encourage us in difficult times. In this way, failure enriches not only our achievements, but also our relationships and personal growth. In personal life, failure is often misunderstood. Relationships that end, goals that fall apart, or dreams that do not work out can feel devastating. But each of these failures teaches lessons that help us grow emotionally and mentally. A failed relationship might teach us self-awareness, patience, or the value of communication. A failed goal might reveal new passions or highlight strengths we did not realize we had. Failure in personal life is never the end, but always a step toward a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world around us. Ultimately, failure is part of the journey to success. It is not a sign that we should quit, but a reminder that the road to achievement is rarely straight or smooth. Failure challenges us to rise higher, think deeper, and grow stronger. Every failure carries within it a seed of improvement if only we have the courage to look for it. Those who embrace failure as a step, not the end, discover that success is not about avoiding mistakes, but about transforming them into lessons. In the end, failure is not something to fear, but something to respect. It is proof that we are striving for more, that we are not content with mediocrity. Failure is a step because it brings us closer to understanding ourselves, refining our abilities, and reaching our goals. The journey of life is built on steps, some forward, some backward, some sideways, but each one contributes to our growth. Failure is just one of those steps, and often it is the most important one. Those who see failure as a step, not the end, eventually realize that every stumble is leading them toward greater strength, greater wisdom, and ultimately, greater success. True legacy is inspiration, and it is not measured by wealth, status, or material possessions left behind, but by the lasting impact one makes on the hearts and minds of others. A person's true greatness is not defined by what they accumulate, but by how they touch lives, motivate people, and leave behind seeds of hope, courage, and vision. Generations may forget the possessions of an individual, but they never forget the inspiration that continues to guide them long after that person is gone. Inspiration is timeless. It transcends death, circumstances, and limitations, living on in the actions, choices, and dreams of those influenced by it. When people think of legacy, they often imagine leaving behind estates, wealth, or monuments. While these things may have value, they are temporary. Money can be spent, property can decay, and monuments can crumble. Inspiration, however, lives in the soul of humanity. It multiplies as it is shared, passed from one person to another, across communities, and even through centuries. The greatest legacies in history are not the riches of kings or the empires of rulers, but the inspiration of thinkers, leaders, artists, and ordinary individuals whose courage and vision shaped the lives of countless others. Consider the legacy of Mahatma Gandhi. He did not leave behind immense wealth or material power, yet his legacy continues to inspire movements for peace and justice across the world. His example of nonviolent resistance has been studied, followed, and applied by leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Nelson Mandela. His inspiration continues to empower ordinary people to believe in the strength of truth and nonviolence. This demonstrates how inspiration, more than anything else, defines true legacy. Gandhi's life reminds us that one person's values and actions can echo across generations, shaping history long after they are gone. Similarly, in the field of science, Albert Einstein's legacy is not only his theories, but the inspiration he left behind for generations of scientists, thinkers, and dreamers. His curiosity, persistence, and creativity continue to motivate young minds to question, explore, and push beyond limitations. His name is synonymous with genius, not just because of his discoveries, but because of the spirit of inquiry he embodied. That spirit is what continues to inspire people to look at the world differently. Einstein's true legacy is not the equations on paper, but the inspiration to think beyond what seems possible. True legacy is also found in the realm of art and literature. Writers like William Shakespeare, Rabindranath Tagore, and Maya Angelou live on not just through their works, but through the inspiration they provide to readers and creators. Their words have guided people to reflect, to feel, to dream, and to express themselves. The inspiration born of art cannot be measured by money or possessions, but its impact is vast. A line of poetry can ignite courage in someone facing despair. A painting can spark creativity in a young artist. A story can shift someone's perspective and change the way they see life. Inspiration is the legacy of the creative spirit, and it endures long after the artist has gone. Inspiration as legacy is not limited to famous figures. Ordinary people often leave extraordinary legacies in the lives of those they touch. A teacher who inspires students to believe in their potential leaves behind a legacy far greater than any salary or title. A parent who sacrifices and motivates their children to pursue education and values plants seeds of inspiration that can shape entire generations. A community leader who dedicates time to serving others leaves behind a spirit of kindness and unity that continues to grow. These legacies may not make headlines, but they are powerful because they live on in the choices, habits, and dreams of those who were inspired. Inspiration is powerful because it multiplies. When one person inspires another, that person in turn inspires others, creating a ripple effect that spreads across time and space. For example, a student inspired by a teacher may grow up to become a scientist, artist, or leader who then inspires hundreds more. Inspiration does not diminish when it is shared, it grows stronger. This is why true legacy lies in inspiration. It transcends the individual and becomes a part of collective human progress. Inspiration is also enduring because it is rooted in values and actions, not possessions. A person remembered for their kindness, courage, or perseverance continues to inspire others to live with those same qualities. When someone recalls a relative who worked hard, remained honest, or faced adversity with strength, they feel encouraged to carry on those values in their own lives. Material possessions may fade, but values lived and shared remain alive in memory and action. A true legacy of inspiration motivates others to live with purpose and integrity. Another important aspect of inspiration as legacy is that it empowers people to believe in themselves. True legacy does not create dependency, but fosters independence and courage. An inspired person does not merely admire, they act. For example, the inspiration drawn from leaders like Nelson Mandela was not just about admiring his courage, but about ordinary people finding courage within themselves to stand for justice. Inspiration is not about worshipping the past, but about igniting action in the present. It awakens hidden strength in others, reminding them of their own potential. True legacy is inspiration because it outlives circumstances. A wealthy person's fortune may vanish through economic collapse, but the inspiration they gave others endures. A person's titles may be forgotten with time, but their courage continues to be remembered. Even in the face of destruction or loss, inspiration remains. This is why many stories of survival, resilience, and sacrifice during wars, disasters, and struggles are cherished across generations. They inspire people to endure, to hope, and to rebuild. Leaving behind a legacy of inspiration requires living with authenticity and purpose. People are inspired not by perfection, but by honesty, courage, and perseverance in the face of challenges. A person who fails but continues trying, who falls but rises again, who chooses kindness over bitterness, often inspires others more deeply than someone who seems flawless. This is because true inspiration comes from humanity, not from perfection. People connect with those who show them that it is possible to face struggles and still move forward. In daily life, inspiration can be as simple as encouraging words, consistent effort, or quiet resilience. A nurse who dedicates herself to caring for patients with compassion leaves behind a legacy of inspiration for future generations of caregivers. A farmer who works tirelessly to provide for his family despite challenges inspires his children to value hard work. A friend who stands by us in times of trouble inspires loyalty and faithfulness. These small acts of inspiration may not make history books, but they build legacies that are deeply personal and profoundly lasting. True legacy as inspiration is also universal. It crosses boundaries of culture, language, and time. The stories of ancient philosophers, poets, and leaders still inspire people today because inspiration does not age. It is as relevant to a child dreaming today as it was to someone centuries ago. This universality is what makes inspiration the truest form of legacy. It belongs to everyone and continues to give, generation after generation. Ultimately, what we leave behind is not what we owned, but who we were and how we made others feel. True legacy is the spark we light in others, the encouragement we provide, the hope we give, and the example we set. Every individual has the power to leave behind such a legacy. We do not need fame or fortune to inspire others. We only need to live with integrity, kindness, perseverance, and purpose. When we inspire even one person to live better, dream bigger, or act with courage, we have left behind a legacy worth more than gold. In the end, true legacy is inspiration because inspiration never dies. It moves from one heart to another, from one generation to the next, creating a chain of growth and progress. Wealth fades, possessions scatter, titles are forgotten, but the inspiration we give endures, shaping lives long after we are gone. To live a life that inspires is to live a life that never truly ends. And so, when we think of what we will leave behind, let it not be riches or monuments, but a legacy of inspiration that continues to shine like a light for others to follow.